I've never been the kind of person who does things for recognition. I never expected anyone to thank me or praise me, but I always thought naively, perhaps, that when you give quietly, consistently, and out of love, at the very least, the person receiving it would see it, respect it, or, at the very least, not betray it. So when I discovered that my father had changed the beneficiary of his insurance to my brother after I had been the one covering all his medical expenses for years, I didn't scream. I just shut down. Aida, for walking away when I realized my family only chose me when they needed something, but never when I had nothing left to give. Background. The burden I carried for 3 years. My dad's been seriously ill for years. Kidney failure, heart problems, and a growing list of medications every month. I covered almost everything: hospital bills, in-home nurses, prescriptions, if there was a bill in his name. It was often deducted directly from my account. I'm not wealthy. I'm just a freelancer getting by. But I never let him go without. I drove him to dialysis every week. Slept on plastic hospital chairs during emergency stays. He called insurance reps, doctors, and pharmacists to ensure he got the best care. Emptied my savings account when the hospital bill exceeded expectations. I did it because I love him, because I believed it was my duty as a daughter. As for my brother Jake, 28, no job, lives off his girlfriend, hasn't set foot in a hospital, no flowers, no visits, not even a proper question. Every once in a while, he'd text, "How's dad?" And that was it. I didn't blame him. I used to think that everyone showed care in their way. Maybe he doesn't handle illness well. My mom always said, "Jake's more fragile than you. You're strong. You can handle things." I nodded, thinking I could carry the weight. But I didn't realize this so-called strength would become their excuse to shut me out. The betrayal. The moment I realized I was nothing last week, I went to the hospital to pay the latest round of fees, which was $6, $120, to be exact, after the payment. The nurse asked me to stop by the admin office to confirm the insurance file. Routine. I'd done it many times, sitting at the desk. The admin woman said, "Can you confirm the beneficiary details are still accurate?" I glanced at the screen. Primary beneficiary Jake Carter. I froze. "Jake?" I asked. "There must be a mistake. I was listed before." She turned the screen toward me. There it was. Digital signature, date, changelog, 2 weeks ago, around that time. I emptied my savings to cover Dad's latest treatment. I don't remember how I walked out of there. I just called my dad as soon as I stepped outside. He answered on the second ring. "When did you change the insurance beneficiary to Jake Silence?" Then yeah, I changed it. "Why?" He sighed like I was annoying him. "Because Jake needs it more than you." I laughed, but not out of amusement. It was a bitter, crooked laugh. The person who can't afford a single pill. The one who's never stepped into the hospital once. Does he need it more? "You're doing fine," he said. "You've got a job. You don't need to rely on anyone." I looked down at the cold, white tile under my feet. So, because I'm responsible, I don't deserve anything. Am I just supposed to pay up and stay quiet? "Don't twist things, sweetheart," he said, as if he were the one being wronged. "Jake, he's not as strong as you. He needs some support." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, "Next time you need help with a hospital bill, call Jake." And I hung up. No goodbye. No waiting. I walked to the parking lot like a ghost. Not angry. Not hurt. Just hollow. My decision, no longer the default option back home. I sat in silence for hours, doing nothing, thinking about all the times. I dropped work to take him to dialysis. All those nights curled up in a hospital chair. All those calls to insurance, doctors, and pharmacies to ensure he was cared for. And Jake, he sent memes. But I was the one who didn't need support. That night, I sent a single message in the family group chat from now on. Whoever's listed on the insurance takes care of the hospital bills. No one replied. Dad read it. Jake saw it. No one was surprised. No one explained. They think I'll calm down. But no, I'm not angry anymore. I see now. The next day, my phone stayed silent. No texts, no calls, no apologies. Just that quiet assumption she's just upset. She'll soften eventually. And that is the problem. They're used to me being the one who calms down, too used to me backing off. So, they take my presence for granted. To them, I'm just a wallet with emotions capable of sadness, worry, fatigue, but still expected to pay up, call to check in, and quietly return to my usual place handling things, footing the bill, disappearing without complaint. The family's reaction, manipulation and blame 2 days later. My mom called. I let it ring. Didn't answer. She texted shortly after, don't blow things out of proportion. We want what's best for both of you. I didn't reply. An hour later, another message. Jake never asked for anything. We just wanted him to have a safety net. Just in case. Just in case. When Dad collapsed in the bathroom. Who carried him out? When did the surgeon need family consent whose name was on the form? Who wired the funds at midnight when no one else had the money for dialysis? And now, they say Jake needs a safety net Wednesday morning. I received a notification from the bank, a transfer request for $3. $500. Sender my mom. No note. No message. No prior call. Just a shameless request, transfer the money. The amount matched exactly what the hospital required as an advance payment for my dad's heart surgery. I declined the transaction immediately. No hesitation. 5 minutes later, my mom called. I didn't answer. She called again twice. Then came a message. You saw it. Why did you refuse? I replied. Because it's not my responsibility. Call the beneficiary. That night, Jake texted me, what the hell are you doing? Dad's about to have surgery. And you won't help. I read that repeatedly, wondering if he thought he had the right to ask me that. I replied, what are you doing? You're the named beneficiary. You handle it. He fired back, I don't have money, be mad all you want. But now's not the time for your silent treatment games. Games, I scoffed. You were silent for 3 years while Dad was in the hospital. You didn't think it was serious when I kept paying his bills, but now it becomes my fault now that it's your turn to do something. His next message, fine. Stay bitter. I'm not going to argue with you. Trying to talk one last attempt the next day. I decided to call my mom. I didn't want reconciliation, but I needed to know if they understood what they'd done wrong. I needed an answer before I walked away for good. Mom, I began. Do you know why I'm hurt? She sighed. I know you're upset about the insurance, but your dad and I just thought Jake needed more protection. You're strong. You can take care of yourself. So because I'm strong, I don't deserve respect, I cut in. Did you ever ask me before changing the beneficiary? Have you ever considered how I'd feel after everything I've done was cut out like that? She said I didn't think it was that serious. Her voice softening. I just wanted what's best for both of you. Best for both. I laughed bitterly. Best for Jake. Mom, as for me, I'm just the one who pays. She went quiet, then said, don't think I don't love you. I worry about Jake. He's not like you. I took a deep breath. You worry about Jake, but you forget I need love? 2. I can't keep living like an ATM to ease your guilt about your son. The call ended with no apology. There is no promise to change. I'll talk to your dad. I knew then that was the end of any meaningful conversation. The consequence, Jake steps up. I step away the next morning. Dad texted the hospital needs payment before surgery. If you don't help, we won't make it in time. We'll lose the treatment slot. I was eating breakfast when I read that. I would have dropped everything in the past, called the hospital, and wired the money before they kicked him out. Today I took a sip of coffee and typed, "You have a few options. Sell Jake's car, take out a loan, call the beneficiary. Your choice. Sent." Lock my phone, no emotion. That afternoon, I called the hospital to check. The surgery had been done, someone had paid, no one in the family informed me. I didn't say I called either. I didn't need to make a scene to prove I cared. I do care. I just won't be exploited anymore. A week later, the hospital called. "Hello. We're following up. Edward Carter still owes $2, 870. The family committed to payment but hasn't followed through." I exhaled. I'd expected this, but I still found it darkly amusing. Ultimately, they still turn to me when the bill isn't paid. "I'm sorry," I said. "I no longer cover medical costs. I'm not involved. It's just that you've handled payments before. So we assumed I know." I cut her off, but since they changed the beneficiary, that person is now responsible. I hung up. Then, I messaged the family group chat hospital called. There's still a $3K balance. I'm not involved. Whoever was chosen handled it. That night, my mom called. I didn't answer. Her message, "Jake hasn't figured out the money yet. Please help this one last time." I promise it's the latter. The last time. I was sick of those words. I replied, "No. Just one word. There's no need for explanations." 5 minutes later, she texted, "Why are you being so bitter? We're family." "Don't be so calculating." I typed slowly. "Family doesn't hide things like changing the beneficiary. My family doesn't take my money and give the benefits to someone else. Family doesn't cast me aside and then beg for my loyalty." No one replied. Jake takes responsibility. The unexpected turn the next morning. Jake called. I hesitated, then answered. I needed to hear what card he was playing. "Don't you think you're blowing this out of proportion?" he said. Trying to sound calm, I said nothing. "Dad's out of surgery. He's been overthinking everything. He thinks you're so mad you're cutting ties for good." I laughed a cold, bitter laugh. "I'm not mad. I'm just clear now." I stopped because I finally understood where I stood. Jake fell silent, then finally said, "He's distraught." I said it straight when Dad changed the insurance beneficiary. Did he think about how I'd feel? Did you ever think about me when you let me carry the financial burden? You're only sad now because there's no one left to take care of things. Not because of me. He didn't argue. I concluded I wasn't the one you chose. So don't expect me to keep living like I'm the only one responsible. I hung up. No waiting. The next day, I got an email from the hospital, the $2, 870 balance had been paid. Sender Jake Carter. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't touched. Just relieved. Not because Jake finally did something worthwhile, but because I had finally let go of that burden. The family tried to pull me back 3 days later. My mom texted, "Dad's better now. Stable. Visit him at the hospital. He's hoping to see you." I read the message without feeling anything. No joy, no sadness. Only one thought came to mind. Now I'm being invited back. But no one's mentioning how they pushed me out. That afternoon, she texted again. Jake apologized. He realized he was wrong. I also admit I was too harsh. I hope you understand that we thought it was the best choice then. Best for whom? Certainly not for me. Not for the daughter who paid every bill for 3 years without asking for a cent. Not for the one who slept curled up in emergency rooms, holding Dad's hand while he seized from acute kidney failure, not for the one quietly removed from the list of benefits without a word or conversation. I replied, "You always thought Jake needed protection, but you forgot that I needed love. 2. I'm not coming back to make everyone feel less guilty." Jake called right after. "Hey, I read your message," he stammered. "I didn't think things would go this way. When I signed the beneficiary form, I thought it was just procedure. Mom said it was to split things evenly." "Split evenly." I cut him off. "Was my name on that list?" He went silent. Was I too stupid to figure out who signed? Agreed. "And kept it from me, I'm sorry," he said. Barely audible. "Truly. No need to apologize." I said, "Just make sure you take care of your part from now on." Could you not push it back on me again? Twisting the story, I became the one who abandoned him a month after the surgery. I got a message from my Aunt Dad's younger sister. "Your dad told everyone you were angry and abandoned him. I know that's not true, but people are starting to talk." I checked Dad's Facebook, a public post from the night before sometimes. The more you help people, the more they leave you. But family means forgiveness. We can't let our loved ones suffer alone. Comments underneath kids these days are so cold. What did he even do wrong? Having a daughter like that is like having none. I laughed. That dry, wordless kind of laugh. They didn't just push me out of the family. They rewrote the story into something more palatable where I was the daughter who abandoned her father. I posted a short message on my private account, only visible to close friends and a few relatives who knew the truth. I don't need anyone to call me a good daughter. But if someone asks why I stayed silent, tell them this: I paid the hospital bills. I signed the medical forms. I bought every pill. I approved every surgery. And I was excluded from every major decision without ever being asked. Could you not ask why I walked away? Ask why they made it so I had to. No tags, no direct call-outs. I didn't need to argue. I just needed to leave a trace. The end, my freedom. 2 days later, my mom called. I picked up, not because I wanted to, but because I was tired of avoiding it. "I saw your post," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "You know your dad didn't mean to hurt you." "He didn't need to mean it," I cut her off. "He just needed to choose someone else." That was enough. Silence. She sighed. "But the family's supposed to forgive." Right family doesn't mean pretending no one was wrong. If there's no fairness in a family, it's just a house with shared blood but no humanity. "I'm sorry," she said. I didn't respond. An apology now wasn't enough. I turned off my phone for 2 days. I needed space. I needed to live without carrying everyone else's emotions. I don't know if they felt hurt reading my post, but I do know I no longer felt guilty for what I had done. I had been there. I had done enough. I just refused to keep living like a ghost in my own story. A month passed. Jake took on full responsibility. I didn't step foot in the hospital, didn't buy medicine, didn't send money, didn't call the doctor. I only gave instructions from a distance when he asked, and he managed. I didn't praise him. I wasn't proud. I just felt light, like after years of carrying a soaking wet backpack full of sand. I'd finally set it down and my back didn't ache anymore. I lived my life, worked, ate proper meals, exercised, listened to podcasts, took walks. No more sleepless nights waiting for hospital calls. No more dread at the ping of a message saying, "Can you send me $500? I lived." Light. If they think I'm heartless for choosing silence, so be it. I no longer need them to understand. I need to be free. TLDR, I paid my dad's hospital bills for years, but he changed the insurance beneficiary to my brother without telling me. I stopped providing financial support and kept my distance. My family said I abandoned him. But all I did was protect myself. To follow-up question. How do you set boundaries with family while still keeping love alive? Should I forgive them even if they never admit they were wrong?